Hi, in this video tutorial I will be teaching you how to create enemies in GameMaker. In order to start this video tutorial, you should have completed the double jumping tutorial or the basic movement tutorial beforehand. This should be a step-by-step easy tutorial to follow along with. The first step is to load two sprites. The first sprite that I want to add is a monster that is moving to the left. And press OK. Next one I want to load is a monster that's moving to the right. And then I want to create my monster object. And I'll give it the sprite of it moving to the right. And I'll call it obj_monster. And I'll make it solid. I'll add an event, create, and that gives me this event here. This tells the game that when this object is created in the room, it should perform the actions in this window. We're going to add a set horizontal speed to 4 action, and this makes him move right. Now that we have that, we want to add a collision event with object 1. And we want to use this icon here. This icon will tell the game that it needs to reverse the horizontal speed and make him move the other direction. Okie dokie. And we need to do the same thing with the monster, so that way no monsters are walking through each other. Then we need to add an end step event, and this will perform once every 10 milliseconds, I believe. And we need to test a variable. If hspeed is larger than 0, change sprite, and the change sprite will just change how it looks, but it won't change the object. It'll change the sprite to sprite 11, or the monster moving to the right, at a speed of 1. Else, and the else action just tells the game that if neither of these are true, to perform the following actions. Then we need to make it change sprite to the monster moving to the left. This tells us that if we are not moving to the right and it doesn't look like we're moving to the right, then we're moving to the left, make it look like we're moving to the left. That's pretty much all you need to do for your monster object right now. You will want to add another sprite, and I'm just gonna make a new one here real quick, and I'm going to fill it in blue like this. Okay, so I have my blue sprite there. I'm going to add an object and call it obj_marker and give it the blue sprite. And I don't want it either visible or solid, because this is going to be an invisible object that our monster is going to interact with. And I don't need any actions there. I need to do an add event, collision with object marker, and I need to change the horizontal speed, and that should make your monster move. In order to place your monster in the room, what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to make your marker so that it's on each of the edges as so. Then you're going to need to place your monster so that it is touching this floor. And that's crucial because if it's not touching the floor, then it will be floating up in space since we didn't add any gravity options to it. Now we're going to need to load a new sprite, and I'm just going to use a squash monster that I found, and I'm going to call that okay. And we're going to create a new object, and I'm going to call it obj_monster splat. Yeah. And I'm going to give it the monster splat sprite, and I'm going to make it solid. I'm going to add an event, and this is going to be a create event, and once again it tells the game that when the object is created in the room, it performs the actions that are in this window that we're going to add right now. So we're going to want to add an alarm event and call this 10 steps in alarm 0, and make sure that relative is not checked and that it applies to self. So this will set alarm 0 to 10. I want an alarm event for alarm 0. We just want it to destroy itself. And that's all you need to do for your monster splat object. Now we're going to need to go into our main character and add a few events. We're going to want a collision event with object monster. And this is important because we want it to be in this one, and we're going to want to test an expression, and it has to be this icon. It can't be this icon, otherwise it won't work. And this must be copied exactly. vSpeed space greater than 0 and y less than space less than other dot y plus 8. If this is not copied exactly, the game will not work. And this expression just basically tells us whether or not we're hitting him from the top or from the side, so that way it can be squashable from the top. We're going to want to add a start of a block, and this just tells GameMaker to perform a series of actions whenever this expression is true. So we're going to want to add some way for there to be scoring, so I'm going to say 50 new score. I'll just add it on there. And this should be relative, so that way it adds on to the new score. And then we're going to want to add a move event, and we want to make sure that this applies to other. This is very important because if it does not apply to other, it will not work properly. It will still work, but not properly. Now we're going to want to add a change instance event to the end of the existing actions. We're going to want to say change to object monster underscore splat and perform events yes. This basically says that when all of the other actions have been executed, to change to that other object and perform the events in that object. And then we're going to want to add a end of block there. Else, then we're going to want to add a start block, and we're going to want to make it sleep for 1,000 milliseconds. You can actually just leave this as the default settings, and it will make the game freeze for exactly 1 second. A millisecond is 1,000th of a second. And then that just makes it so that way when this expression is not true, the game will freeze for 1 millisecond and then perform the next event that we're going to add, which is restart room with no effect. If you want, you could really add any one of these effects, but I'm not going to, just for simplicity's sake. And then we want to add the end of a block there, and that should be the end. And we can execute our program. And he was caught by the edge. Oh. What went wrong? So I forgot to mention one last thing. You need to make sure that this change instance applies to other. Otherwise, what just happened will happen, and that's bad. So we'll change that. Now when we try and stomp on him, if I can, I'm terrible at this game, it works. Yay! And that is how to have monsters in GameMaker. Hope this was helpful.